Melisa Idris, and you're watching The Brand, the show about advertising, how it works and how it works on us. Now, I'm here at VCR Cafe in Jalan Galaway in Bukit Bintang, and joining me on the show this week, I have Sonia Sarpal. Sonia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sonia is the Principal Strategist at CLICK Branding and Marketing. Now, Sonia, you have extensive experience in marketing and branding. I think you spent almost 2 decades with a huge company making FMCG.
Yes.
And I'd really like to talk to you a bit today to kind of tap into that experience about branding and marketing. I thought what we could do is kind of take a step back, a bird's eye view, zoom out and really take a look at what makes a good brand, because more often than not, when we're talking about advertising and branding and marketing, we get bogged down by the nitty-gritty. We often forget the root cause as to why we're doing it in the first place. So a bit of a 101, if you may, but it's good to kind of get that refresher. Now, I want to talk to you about, first of all, what you're doing with CLICK now, after 18 years with the world's biggest food company. So what are you doing now with CLICK?
Basically in CLICK, what I do is I offer a consultancy service, mainly focusing on branding and strategy, where I actually help organizations, SMEs, small setups, small startup companies, go in, help them to build up their brand, identify needs and how to actually fix it. I also do what I term as a business war game or business re-engineering, where sometimes I actually go into companies and help them identify key areas which are actually at this moment in time stopping their growth. Right. So for example, if they have something that they're doing which they keep banging that head of theirs onto that wall trying to crack a problem, and they're not able to actually break through that.
Figure it out?
Yeah, I actually go in there and we take 2 steps back and we examine all the data and we have a cross-functional team working on it, and we come up with a single-minded focused solution as to how we can actually progress.
Okay, well that's precisely what we want to do today, right? Take 2 steps back and look at the issue of branding and marketing and figure out what makes a good brand. So first of all, Sonia, there's a lot of, I guess, people throw these terms, they bandy these terms about, branding, marketing, sales. Do people often understand the difference?
I think there's a lot of confusion.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of confusion. Sometimes when you talk to people, they don't understand the difference between what is a product, what is a brand, what is marketing, and how the sales and advertising actually play a part in this whole scheme of things. An analogy that I always like to use when I run my trainings with branding people is I always ask them to put their phones on the table and turn it around, remove the cover and turn it around and place upside down.
Okay.
And it all looks the same.
Yeah. When it's placed that way.
When it's placed that way, it looks the same. And then I'll ask them, okay, now tell me what you see. And from a distance, nobody can actually tell the brand. There's nothing printed on it. And they'll say it's a phone.
Right.
And I'll shuffle them up and I'll ask them, so how much are you willing to pay for this? And you'll be surprised. The prices can range from 99 ringgit to 999 ringgit to whatever it may be. And they're always very low.
Okay.
And then we start to flip the phones around, and then suddenly the brands become visible.
And then the game changes.
And then the game changes. And then they say, this phone is this brand and this brand and this brand and this brand. And then I'll ask them, so how much would you pay now? And then they'll start throwing different prices.
Okay.
And the Androids, the China-made Androids would probably be at the lower end of the spectrum. A Samsung would probably be in the middle of the spectrum, and the iPhone would probably be at the top of the spectrum. And then you ask them why. And they'll give you so many reasons as to functionality, user-friendliness, usability, value for money, and they'll give you every single reason. And then you'll ask them again, so how many of you own 2 or 3 phones? And inevitably in any group, there will be about 2 or 3 people who will have 2 or 3 phones.
Right.
So you return all the phones and you ask them, okay, so now you have 2 or 3 phones. Now tell me, out of these 2 or 3 phones, if I were to give you a chance to buy the same 3 phones again, which would you pick?
Okay.
And inevitably, they would pick one brand. They will never say, I would pick 2 brands again. I would pick this one brand. And then you ask them why.
Okay.
And then they'll give you the real reason why. And it doesn't matter how much it costs. You will be surprised that there are times that they've picked the cheapest phone, and there are times that they have picked the most expensive phone. And the reasons that they've given you will be the determinants of brand loyalty, how powerful the loyalty is to that particular brand.
So what makes up that?
The experience that they have with that brand, the needs that have been met by that brand. So how powerful a brand is to that particular person, how it resonates with that person, at the end of the day, fundamentally comes down to whether or not the needs of that person has been met by that product with that brand.
So, I mean, it seems pretty basic, right? These are the building blocks to brand loyalty.
Yes.
But I think we need a reminder when it comes to that, because often we forget, as we're talking about marketing and branding, we forget why we need to answer the customer's needs. Now, Sonia, when you're talking, you're conducting a training, you're talking to your clients, what questions do you get them to ask themselves about how to solve the client's or the customer's needs?
Well, the first question is, what does the client or the customer or the consumer, the person who is buying it and consuming it, what do they actually want? And what is it about the product which is going to solve their pain point?
Okay.
Once it meets their needs and it answers their problems and it solves their pain points, they are yours.
Do you think that consumers often understand what it is or even know what it is that they need or what the pain point is? Because sometimes, it's often seen that the customer may not even know what they want or what they need, and it's up to the brand or marketer to figure that out.
Actually, you are absolutely right. Sometimes it's like peeling an onion. The more questions you ask, the more answers you get.
Right.
And it's up to the marketer to see how adept they are in actually peeling back the onion layer. And once they are actually getting the hang out of it, whether they understand whether there's a need for a price point or a value pack or an image or an aspiration versus something else that the customer is actually looking for.
Right.
Once they actually peel back the onion and find out what is at the core of it, then they have answered their question to the actual being for their existence and who is actually making the decision. So once they understand decision maker and need, they're done.
Okay, so those are the key questions that every brand builder needs to understand their customer, right? We're going to come back and continue our conversation with Sonia Sarpal right after this. Stay with us on The Brand. Welcome back to The Brand. I'm Melisa Idris. I've got with me on the show today Sonia Sarpal. She is the Principal Strategist at CLICK Branding and Marketing. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about digital marketing, Sonia.
All right.
Because digital marketing has changed the landscape of what we understand marketing to be. And everyone's betting their bottom dollar that this is going to be the way of the future. What do you think?
Basically, okay. My point of view may not be a very popular point of view when it comes to digital marketing. Because I am a marketer at heart. And digital marketing, to me, is a medium of marketing. It is a way to be heard. It is a way to reach your target audience. And if you focus very well on digital marketing, you can be very targeted to your target audience depending on whether or not they are on that particular platform. But it is not the only form of marketing. It is not the only form of advertising. It is a very efficient form of advertising, but it's not the only one.
Is it effective though?
It is very effective.
Form?
If it is targeted appropriately, it is very effective.
Okay.
It can be, the returns on it can be very, very high. with a minimal amount of investment.
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper. So yes, I believe that digital marketing is changing the landscape, but it is not the only form of media. Because I have one question or a couple of questions to ask. If digital marketing was the be-all and end-all of marketing and advertising, why then would an online player like Lazada put out a TV ad?
Right.
Or why then would similarly Shopee put out a billboard? Why would online marketing store like Amazon start building brick and mortar stores or even Fashion Valet?
Right.
They have been on digital all this while.
And now they're building stores. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's now a world where you need to have different methods or different ways in which to reach people. And it's now not about choosing one way to push your story across. It's the world of the omni-channel, where the principles don't change. It's keeping up with the times of understanding where and how you can reach your consumers that is going to change the game.
Okay, so that means marketers in this day and age will have to be, savvy in all these channels, right?
Yes.
I guess my question also, given your experience in this industry in the past 2 decades, you must have seen digital marketing change. I mean, from the moment that it started to disrupt the industry to the way we know it now. For you, Sonia, what does digital marketing constitute?
When I was a young marketer, when I first entered the workforce, I worked for a third-party marketing company, and it was a third-party advertising company, and we specialized in word-of-mouth marketing.
Word-of-mouth marketing.
But that was before the day and age of the internet. So word-of-mouth marketing in those days meant actually going to meet people on the street and talking about a product for a client. That was my first exposure in marketing. Nowadays, word-of-mouth marketing can come from social media, and it has changed. Digital marketing 10 years ago was the hype of the world, and digital marketing 10 years ago used to be a scrolling banner on Yahoo.
On a website, yes.
It wasn't even Google, it was Yahoo. And then now, everything is on social media. You are on Facebook, you are on Twitter, you're on Instagram, and you're on every other channel. You're on Google, you're on every other channel that is available to you.
Right.
TikTok, the latest things come in.
Marketers really need to know this, and it changes so quickly. Sonia.
It is it changes very, very quickly. But the whole idea of this is that you need to keep abreast of it. You need to experiment with it, and you need to understand how your consumers actually look for information. So if I give you an example, if I take a Chinese woman, age 40, so she's woman, she's 40, so that gives you what? Chinese woman, age 40.
So you have certain demographics, certain characteristics.
Yeah, so let's just keep it to 3. We won't go into the details. So one woman is a mother with a 5-year-old child. The other woman is single, without a care in the world, and she's career-minded. But they're Chinese, they're 40, and they're women. What do you think their touch points would be? Where do you think they would go? Would they read the newspaper? Would they listen to the radio on drive time? Would they search the internet? Would they look for information about nutrition, kindergartens? Would they look for information about travel, fashion? So it's all about peeling back the layer, one layer at a time, and understanding it. Because Chinese woman, age 40, is so broad.
So it's a similar demographic, 2 categories, but they have different pain points,
Totally
different interests, and
Absolutely.
probably will search for information on different mediums.
Exactly.
So what you're saying is that digital marketing for you, the use of social media, that's all just complementary to the traditional avenues of advertising.
Correct. It is actually very disruptive. Digital marketing can be very disruptive, but people are finding ways to close buttons. How many times have you actually, we always used to say digital marketing, it's in your face. You open your phone and you get pop-ups. But how many times do we actually look at it and scroll it off now?
Or install ad blockers.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, we do. But unless we find now something that really resonates with us, then we are very open to it. Key influencers.
Okay, so KOLs, key opinion
for example,
leaders, influencers on
even
social
that
media.
landscape is changing. It used to be
In what way?
you have to be a celebrity to be heard. If you're not a celebrity, nobody's going to listen to you.
Right.
And then suddenly it became social media influencers, which you had to pay an arm and a leg to attend your event. And
Promote
how many
it
followers
on their social media
and
channels.
Yes, because the success would be how many followers, or the filter would be how many followers, how many interactions, and so on and so forth. But nowadays people are looking for organic. They want real life stories. They want human virality. They want real life interaction. They want realistic face to face, my experience. So all this is changing. So digital is great. And I think, yes, it is a huge game changer. But what I cringe on a daily basis is when I see people online saying that marketing is dead. And the only way that you are ever going to succeed in marketing your product is if you come for my digital class, and I will teach you everything there is to know about digital.
Okay.
And let's face it, Facebook, Google, they change their algorithms all the time.
Sure.
It's a very volatile market.
And you have no idea how the algorithm works in the first place, how it works under the bonnet, right? Yeah.
Yes. So, my suggestion to you is keep abreast, keep reading, keep finding out, keep exposing yourself, stay current. If you are a marketer and if you are really interested in that, then these are the things that you should constantly, look out for information on. I mean, there's so much information available.
Right.
All you have to do is just look for it.
Okay. So that's your advice to brand builders and marketers alike.
And don't underestimate the power of traditional media. It's still relevant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even despite changing consumer taste and despite how hard it is to gain customers' attention right now.
Correct. It's how you identify the needs of that particular person. Digital is here to stay. There's no changing it. But traditional media is not dead either.
Okay, there you go. We'll be right back on The Brand. Stay with us after these messages. Welcome back to The Brand. I'm Melisa Idris with Sonia Sarpal, the Principal Strategist of CLICK Branding and Marketing. We're talking a little bit about, some the basics of building a great brand. And my takeaway really has been understanding your customer, just getting to know who it is that you are targeting and trying to answer their needs. And that is the basis of building a brand that will last and inspire brand loyalty, right?
Correct.
I also want to talk a little bit, Sonia, about this term, silent marketing. I mean, for me, silent marketing is an oxymoron. So how would you characterize silent marketing?
Okay. Based on my background in my previous job, I had the privilege and the pleasure of working in a category which was highly regulated.
Okay.
And that in itself, we had to find ways in which we had to operate. So silent marketing is not something that people talk about very often, and it's not something that you find in very many books. So it's a phrase that I coined, silent marketing, because I couldn't find anything to support that at this moment in time. I may be wrong. And it covers a multitude of industries. Tobacco would be one of them in Malaysia, alcohol, pharmaceuticals, infant formula, pesticides. So there are many industries that are actually governed by silent marketing, where there are certain rules and regulations that prohibit the communication to the end consumer.
Okay, so not using the normal channels of advertising. I'm familiar with tobacco and alcohol and pharmaceuticals to a certain degree. I didn't know infant formula was also part of that
Yes,
category.
it is actually. Up until maybe the 40s and 50s, or even maybe even the 60s, you would be able to find advertising on infant formula brands. And if you go back and you just Google, Uncle Google knows everything at the moment. So if you just Google, or if you do an internet search, you can see all posters of infant formula brands from around the world. Now, the reason why it became a sore point, or it came under silent marketing, was because of the promotion of breastfeeding.
I see.
So there is always a need for the particular industry to have a reason why they restrict the communication of a particular product.
Okay.
So understanding silent marketing is that it's highly regulated. So the amount of communication that reaches the end consumer is almost non-existent. And it is up to the marketeer to actually find out why it's there, what are the regulations around it, are there any gray areas, and what is the risk aversion of the company in terms of actually approaching this subject.
Okay.
The other flip side of a coin is silent marketing when you have no money.
Oh, okay. That's another type of silent marketing.
That's another silent marketing. So when you have no money, how do you market, right?
Right.
So that one's an easy one. Just go digital, spend a little bit of money, and you're done. But the true silent marketing would be the highly regulated industries, where you actually need to understand law and legislation.
Okay, so if an industry is so highly regulated that brands are not able to reach consumers in the traditional ways of advertising, then marketers have to get creative.
Yes.
So how have you seen the workabouts for that?
Okay. It depends on whether a marketer is lazy or not. At the end of the day, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I have to say that.
That's okay.
Okay. And whether a marketer is creative or not. The best marketeers that I have seen who work in silent categories are the people who can plant the thought of that brand in your mind without even you realizing that you have a need for that product. And they do it in multiple channels.
How?
Okay, so for example, pharmaceuticals. So where would they go? They would go see a doctor, and the doctor would then prescribe. And the doctor would prescribe brand A, brand B, brand C. But the doctor has a preference of a particular brand. Why? Maybe it's because of the clinical trials that are presented, the factual evidence that is presented to say that this particular drug is more superior to this drug. Or it could be a slightly sinister need behind a favored drug.
Okay. Yeah.
So we have to understand the workings of how that category actually works, and it differs from industry to industry, and the methods in which you can actually approach through a third party or a fourth party or even a fifth layer is very different.
Okay.
So the first rule of silent marketing is to understand the category. What is the root cause of that particular industry being made silent?
Okay.
Then to understand the regulation around it, and then to understand what are the options that are available to you.
Okay, so for instance, Sonia, you said the infant formula industry was regulated because of the promotion of breastfeeding. So understanding that is the reason behind it. Then the workabouts would be, for instance, going around and target, because you can't advertise to mothers on a normal basis. How would you then, as a brand owner, figure out ways to work around those regulations?
Okay, you're putting me in a little bit of a spot here. Because it's a little bit sensitive in this question is a little bit sensitive.
Okay.
So you're putting me in a little bit of a tight spot. So
what would be the workabout?
Okay, what would be the workabout? What is regulated is infant formula between 0 to 12 months.
Right.
Okay, But 12 months and above at this moment is not highly regulated.
I see.
So what you see in the market is you are aware of the brands, mainly because the promotion is done on the older brands.
Right, the ones that can be promoted.
Correct.
I see.
So those kind of things are things that you possibly can. Similarly, in the pharmaceutical industry as well, the over-the-counter drugs that can be promoted, that can be advertised, are targeted as supplements.
Okay, so building brand awareness in
Yes.
customers will then hopefully translate or
And
kind
the
of
brand,
spill over
yes,
into
correct. So
other
there's a
products.
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And then that is targeting to the end consumer. But the other route to take would be the tertiary or the secondary or tertiary or fourth layer of people who would be the key influencers in actually helping the mother or the patient make a decision in which something is better than the other. So that one you need an influencer, a direct influencer, a credible influencer who is in a position to make a very impartial judgment to say, yes, this is better, or no, this is not.
Okay, all right.
That's the way
understood.
you would do that.
Well, there you go. Unfortunately, we've run out of time for our conversation with Sonia today, but thank you so much for joining me
Thank you.
on the show. It's been such a pleasure talking to you about branding.
Thank you.
It's been great to get back to basics.
Yeah, thank you.
You've been watching The Brand. I'm Melisa Idris, and I'll be back with you same time next week. I'll catch you then. Thank you, Sonia. Great.
Thank you so much.